Now the next topic is ethnic composition and power sharing in Sri Lanka. As we all know that Sri Lanka is an island nation in the Indian Ocean and it is just a few kilometers off the southern coast of Tamil Nadu. Sri Lanka has a diverse population of about 2 crore people with 74% being Sinhalas and 18% Tamils. Remember, 74% being Sinhalas and the 18% Tamils. Tamils have two subgroups. One is Sri Lankan Tamils and the second is Indian Tamils. Those Tamils are natives of Sri Lanka are called Sri Lankan Tamils and they constitute 13% of the population and are concentrated in the north and east of Sri Lanka. Most of the Sinhala speaking people are Buddhist, while most of the Tamils are Hindus or Muslims. And the Tamilians, whose forefathers came from India as plantation workers during colonial rule and settled in the Sri Lanka, are called the Indian Tamils. And they constitute in Sri Lanka 5% of the population. And there are about 7% Christians who are both Tamils and Sinhala. Now, what is majoritarianism in Sri Lanka? So, this is a concept which signifies a belief that the majority community should be able to rule a country in whichever way it wants, by disregarding the wishes and needs of the minority. Sri Lanka emerged as an independent country in 1948 and the leaders of the Sinhala community sought to secure dominance over government by virtue of their majority. As a result, the democratically elected government adopted a series of majoritarian measures to establish Sinhala supremacy. And in 1956, an act was passed to recognize Sinhala as the only official language, thus disregarding Tamils. And the government followed preferential policies that favored Sinhala applicants for university positions and government jobs also. And a new constitution stipulated that the state shall protect and promote the Buddhism. So all these government measures gradually increased the feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils, and they felt that none of the major political parties led by Buddhist Sinhala leaders was sensitive to their language and culture. So the relation between Sinhala and Tamil communities became strained over time. For getting their rights, the Sri Lankan Tamils launched parties and struggles for the mainly for the recognition of Tamil as an official language, and they demanded regional autonomy, equality of opportunities, and securing election, education, and jobs. But their demands was denied, and by the 1980s, several political organizations like Litte Liberation Tigers of Tamil were formed by the Sri Lankan Tamils and demanding an independent Tamil Ilam. Ilam means state. And in northern and eastern parts of Sri Lanka, they started their demands. And conflict between the two communities turned into widespread conflict among them. It soon turned into civil war. The civil war resulted in the killing of thousands of people of both the communities. And this civil war also caused the terrible setback to the social, cultural and economic life of the country. And many families were forced to leave the country as refugees and lots of people lost their livelihood. Now the lessons from two stories of Belgium and Sri Lanka. Here Belgium and Sri Lanka both are democracies yet they deal with the question of power sharing differently. If we will talk about the Belgium, here the leaders have realized that the unity of country is possible only by the respecting the feelings and interests of different communities and regions, such as such a realization resulted in mutually acceptable arrangement for sharing the power. In contrast, Sri Lanka shows us a different example. It shows us that if a majority community wants to force its dominance over others and refuse to share power, it can undermine the unity of the country. This is all about the ethnic composition and power sharing in Sri Lanka.